everyone, today I'm going to show you how you can use Photoscape to crop, resize and watermark your photos. Now Photoscape is a free piece of software and you can download it from photoscape.org. Now you'll see here that there is a lot of functionality in this program. Today we are going to be starting with the editor, so I'm going to click there. In this top left panel you will see all of your folders from your computer, so you just need to click on the one which has the photos that you want to edit in it, okay, and you'll see them come up here. Click on the photo you want to work on and it will pop up in the main panel. Now, this photo is straight from my phone and you'll see that it's over 2 megabytes and it's 3,000 or so pixels wide and 4,000 or so pixels tall. Now that is far too big for me to upload to my blog, and also it's not suitably sized for most social media platforms. So it's really worth taking the time to edit the size of that photo, resize it, get it right, as well as adding your watermark. At the bottom here we have our tools panel, and you'll see that there are some general photo editing tools as well. We are going to start with the crop tool. So if I click crop, okay, you'll see that it defaults here to crop freely. Now what I can do is I can click and drag and I can draw a box of any size across my photo. Okay, now what I can do is I can click and move this around, but you want to be careful because if you double click, that actually applies the crop. Okay, so it's always a good idea to work out where the undo button is in any program, and it's in the bottom right here. Of course Control Z works as well, but I'm just going to click that undo. Okay, let's draw that crop box again. So if I draw that across, okay, you'll see that if I get those crosshairs and if I click once and drag, okay, you'll see that I can move that box around. Okay, now recently in my Facebook group I've been talking quite a bit about aspect ratio. Now aspect ratio is the ratio of the width to the height of your photograph, and most social media platforms have specific aspect ratios that they are optimized for, so it's worth keeping this in mind. You'll also find that if you're blogging, that it can actually help your layout if you use consistent aspect ratios through your photographs. Photoscape can help with this if you aren't able to, of course, take the photos in the correct aspect ratio in the first place. Okay, so what you can do is click on this button down here and you can see all of these pre-loaded ratios for you to choose from. So for example, Instagram uses square photos quite a lot, and that's the 1:1 aspect ratio because the width is the same as the height. So what I can do is I can click that, okay, and then now when I click and drag, it is only going to let me draw a square box no matter how much I push the mouse button down. So what I can do is I can pull a square across. I can do the same thing. I can click and drag and move that up, and you'll see that this is a very good example. This photo won't actually crop into a square very neatly. I'd have been better off trying to take that photo as a square on my phone to start with, okay? But I could use one of the other ratios. So for example, the 4:5 ratio is, I think, recommended for portrait photos on Instagram. So I can select 4:5 and I can do the same thing. I can click and drag my box. Now if you look carefully, if I'm dragging sideways, what you'll find is actually it's effectively giving me a 5:4 box, as in the width is the longer measurement, so it's the 5 in my ratio. And if I want it to be portrait, I actually have to kind of push my mouse upwards, okay, and drag it out portrait wise. Okay, so you can see that that switches between those two depending on how I move my mouse. Okay, so just make sure you've got the right one. So then what I can do is I can maybe drop it there. Same thing, I can click and drag that over slightly, try and center it around my photo. There we go, and I can either click the crop button down here, okay, or I can double click. Okay, so there we go. I have now cropped my photo. So it might be the right aspect ratio, but if you look here, you'll see that the pixel dimensions mean that this is still far too big for my blog. Okay, I could upload it to Instagram because the actual file size is less important there. What's more important there is you are over the minimum okay, and the minimum, for example, for Instagram is 1080 pixels, okay, but this is over that, so I could upload this to Instagram, but it's not suitable for my blog, so I need to do further editing. My next step is going to be to resize this photo, okay, so I come back to over here and I'm going to click to home, and you'll see that I have a resize button here. Now there are some kind of preset options here, but to be honest, it's easier if you just click on the button itself, okay, and it brings up this kind of calculator. Now you want the chain linked together, and that's because we are preserving the aspect ratio. If I unclick that, you'll see that the chain is broken, and that will mean that I could change these dimensions independently, which would end up with me probably squashing my photo, and it's really going to ruin how that photo looks. So I want to click to preserve that aspect ratio, and I want to change this pixel width here. So like I said I was resizing this for Instagram, so the minimum that they tend to talk about is 1080 pixels, so I could change it to that if I was uploading to Instagram. But actually for my blog, I'm going to want to go down a lot more, so I'm going to want to take it down to kind of to match the width of my content area of my blog, which I know is about 750, so I'm going to go to 700 pixels for my photo, and you'll see that the height has been changed proportionally to match. Okay, so if I click OK, that's going to apply my changes, and you'll see here that my pixel dimensions have changed, even though it didn't look like it made any difference to my photo itself. So I have cropped my photo to the right aspect ratio and got rid of the white space that I didn't want, and I have resized it to the correct pixel dimensions. The last step is for me to add my watermark. So what I want to do is go to Object. Now I can very easily add a saved PNG watermark, but what I can also do, if I haven't got one of those yet, is add a simple text overlay. Okay, so I can click text, and you'll see that I can type whatever I want. So for example, if I just wanted to do images, copyright, stampin' up, okay, so then what I can do is I can change the font. So I've got fonts that I can choose from. I can just keep it simple. I can change the size, okay, so you can see that I can make that a lot bigger. Okay, I can change the color. So for example, if I don't want it to be black on this photo, I could make it white. Okay, and then obviously you have other options here, so you can add an outline. Okay, not very good having a white outline on a white, but there we go. So for example, I could outline my white in black, or the other way around. I could also add a shadow if I wanted to. Okay, so you can play around with the effects slightly to create your watermark, and then you want to click OK. Then once you've done that, you can hover over and you can click and drag, move it into position. Okay, and if you wanted to edit it further, you can double click again, and that will open that panel again. You could then, for example, change the text if you decide it's too big. The other option you have for resizing is that you can just kind of use those corners to grab it and shrink it down slightly. Okay, other options just worth pointing out, you can make the text vertical. Okay, let's just take that over. So for example, at the minute it's going the wrong way, but I could then just simply rotate it round, and then you could get that to line up. Take a bit more time than me. You could get that to be actually straight on the side as well. Okay, I think that's probably just about straight. Okay, but I don't want a text watermark, so I'm just going to click on that cross to get rid of it. What I'm going to do instead is click on Photo, and what it's going to do is it's going to let me open up that PNG file, my saved watermark. Okay, so I'm just going to select it and click Open. Now again, it opens up a little dialog box. It's set to be the opacity that I've saved in that PNG file. I can obviously reduce that down if I want to. Okay, I can edit that. You can come up with something that you use consistently to kind of keep that consistent feel to your photographs. And then again, what you can do is you can actually set the position there. Okay, you can anchor it to the bottom right, for example, then you can click OK. Obviously the same thing, you could hover over and you could move it around. Okay, if you change your mind again, you can double click to open that box again, and again maybe you decide that you are going to consistently put that in the bottom right. So for example, if you're using the same PNG folder, the same PNG file, and using the same anchor position, the same aspect ratio, the same photo width, you're going to find that your watermark is always in exactly the same place. Okay, you can tell I'm a bit pedantic about these things. You might be as well. Okay, so I'm just going to click OK. What you've got then is you have your watermark overlaid onto your photo. So the last step is then to save that photo so that we can use it. Okay, so the save button is in the bottom right corner here. So I'm going to click save. What you want to do is check these options before you click any of these buttons. Now, if this one here is ticked, then if you kind of hit enter too quickly or take the first option, what you'll find is that instead of it overriding the file, it will save the original photo and save this as a separate photo. Okay, and it will create a folder for your originals within the folder that we're in at the moment. Okay, you can of course change the folder that you save in, okay, by toggling through your folder structure. Okay, and then of course as well you can rename the file completely if you want to. Before you click any of these, it's worth considering the quality here. Now 95% is usually a good default, and you'll see that this photo here, as we said before, was just over 2 megabytes, but if we export this at this 95% quality, because of the reduced size as well, it's taking it down to under 300 kilobytes. Now that is going to be much better if you are uploading this to your blog. What you want to think is if you have multiple photos on your blog page, you want them to be effectively as small as possible so that your page loads quickly, or rather as quickly as possible. Now I say as small as possible. There is a limit to that, obviously, because people come to our blogs for photos, so you don't want those photos to be too small. Okay, so you do kind of there's a bit of a compromise in play there. Now, when it comes to the actual quality percentage, okay, or that exact setting, again, it's a compromise, and you can decide where you want to draw the line. So if you want to, you could save at 100%, okay, which then pushes it up to 500 kilobytes. That's probably still a little bit too big, but if you are determined that you want to have photos of that quality on your blog, then that is your decision to make. Okay, but what you can probably do is you can see that you could export a couple of different photos, particularly when you are getting used to using this, and you could kind of see where you feel the line is. You do not want to take this so far down that so for example, we could take it down to 90% and it's down to 200 kilobytes, but you might find that actually when you compare that to the 95% quality, that kind of drop in quality is unacceptable. So again, it's a compromise, and only you can really decide where you draw that line. Okay, so I'm just going to click Save As because I want to change the name of this photo. So I'm just going to add kind of 700 pixels on there to differentiate the two files. So this is my original, and then this will save separately. Okay, and obviously you might want to consider optimizing that title further before you upload it to your blog. But I'm going to click Save. And then I have my photo already in that folder for me to upload to my blog when I am ready. So I hope that was useful. Thank you very much for watching today. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch. Don't forget to check out the rest of my tutorials in my Tech Help group on Facebook.